He moved quickly through the thick bushes toward a clearing where many tourists had parked their cars. Some tourists ran, while others locked themselves in their cars in fear. They had issues. Knowing grizzly bears were abundant, the ranger carried his rifle. He hoped he wouldn't need it. He stopped in the cars when he saw something. Brody became a park ranger to fulfill his childhood dream. After studying hard, he was able to train as a ranger. He was soon checking Yellowstone National Park's trails. That day would teach him to respect the wild. Wyoming Ranger Brody McCormick was average at 29. He loved nature and peace in the wilderness. Brody, the only child of a botanist mother and zoologist father, naturally pursued biology. He always wanted to protect wildlife as a ranger. He stopped helping that day. Brody was raised on Yellowstone's wild tales. These tales from his father, who studied the park's magnificent animals, made Brody's childhood magical. Although these stories were captivating, his dad always cautioned him. Brody remembered the grizzly bear warnings. Grizzlies are second only to the white-coated polar bear in viciousness. Grizzlies weigh 1,700 pounds and stand 5 feet tall. If you like my videos, don't forget to like or subscribe. Thanks in advance. They can climb trees, swim most waterways, and outrun humans. Antagonizing such terrifying creatures is a bad idea. This woman learned the hard way that grizzly bears aren't as cuddly as they appear. For many, including Brody, seeing the bear attack the woman was more than a cautionary tale that would teach future generations. Like many park days, the incident began. After a quick stop at the park office to plan the day, Brody dashed into the wilderness to make sure visitors enjoyed the park's wildlife. He covered his park areas on his usual route. He heard the commotion as he was about to rest at the office. Tourists and animals screamed. Brody ran to the commotion, hoping for the best. The park had strict animal viewing rules. For one, they couldn't be closer than 100 yards to bears. Some tourists disregarded the rules, but most did. The woman's category is obvious. Brody dashed through bushes to a tourist parking lot. Most of them fled and locked themselves in their cars, indicating trouble. Brody had seen several visitors who disrespected Yellowstone and learned a lesson in his many months there. Some survived, but others died. Brody carried his rifle in grizzly bear country, hoping to avoid using it. After passing the cars, he stopped. Brody heard a deep roar from afar. The sound stopped his heart. Grizzly. As he ran toward the commotion, hoping no tourists were being mauled by the animal, he saw something that made him wish he had been off duty that day. Brody saw a raging grizzly. 2 smaller bears behind it made matters worse. He swore. A mama bear with cubs was worse than a grizzly bear. He paused before seeing her. The woman stood with her phone while everyone else was locked in their cars. She appeared to be photographing the bear, who was not pleased. After the bear charged, she turned to run. Brody had to find her. Protecting their young makes mama bears more aggressive than other bears. To protect their cubs, they often turn obstacles into flesh ribbons. Brody ran to the woman with his bear spray can, dropping his rifle. The vehicles shielded him from the bear, saving him. Next, the bear stopped him. To understand this situation's gravity, you must hear the woman's side. Amanda Livingston was just a mom having fun at the park. Her husband and daughters invited her to Yellowstone to cheer her up after a rough week at home. Amanda and her family drove hours to Yellowstone from Arizona. Amanda wanted to be so far from home on their first visit. Amanda loved her family like many American moms. She crossed state lines for love, leading to the grizzly bear fight. Amanda struggled all week. Mindy, her firstborn, had stage 2 blood cancer. The little angel needed 24-hour medical care and monitoring despite her best efforts. She requested that her family visit Yellowstone National Park. Doctors discharged little Mindy because she fought enough. She wanted to see Yellowstone's vibrant wildlife first. Her parents granted her request due to her miraculous recovery and lively nature. They needed a vacation after months of worrying. They were clueless. After leaving the hospital, Mindy wanted to see a grizzly in Yellowstone. Her family gave her a big teddy bear, which was her best friend while her parents and siblings were at work and school. Her parents had to fulfill her dream. Disaster was imminent. The family boarded the first out-of-state flight. After several hours in the air, they arrived in Wyoming ready to explore the national park. Trouble arrived that night. Mindy, who had been doing well, complained of a severe headache. However, her parents had more issues. Once Mindy got sick, Amanda and her husband acted. They tucked her in and turned on her favorite show to relax. Her vitals showed more than a headache and fever. Despite their reluctance, this new development required a change in their plans. Amanda and her husband didn't want to tell their daughter she couldn't go to Yellowstone. They had to rush her to the nearest hospital, where doctors admitted her. Mindy woke up and asked her mom for a favor as the family watched the night turn into dawn. Mindy smiled weakly. "I know I'm not going to the park anymore, Mommy." Her doe eyes blinked tears, and her smile faded. "It's fine." Amanda suppressed tears. "I'll improve," Mindy said stronger. "Promise." She made her request after her mom cried. "Would you visit the park?" Mindy asked again. "Enjoy." She was always a stunning child. Mindy would persist despite Amanda's morning rejection. Amanda and her family drove to Yellowstone after her last words before falling asleep. Mindy asked her mother to photograph the bears. Her medicine was working. Amanda nodded, wiping her tears. Her family had a rough week. Her daughter recovered and asked to come here. She did anything to smile. Amanda drove everyone to Yellowstone. The experience was supposed to calm her, but she was preoccupied with Mindy. Mindy and other tourists admired a bear family after her husband drove her there. Unaware, Mindy took out her phone. Amanda was preoccupied as the mama bear charged. It roared, bringing her back to reality. Officer Brody was racing to her before the bear punished Mindy. As he approached, the unexpected happened. The bear stopped and turned with a warning roar. Amanda wisely jumped into her car, out of the bear's sight. A mock charge warns intruders that they are invading the bear's space. Without running, she would have died. She was safe from the bear, but the state's legal team would teach her a lifelong lesson. Amanda testified. She apologized, saying her concern for her daughter had overshadowed the danger around her. She asked the court to reduce her fine because her family was struggling financially and emotionally. She wanted her case heard. Due to Amanda's honesty, the court reduced her park rule violation fine. She was imprisoned for 4 days, fined, and banned from national parks for a year. She's grateful she survived such a terrifying attack. She was lucky, many who antagonized bears were not. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again in the next video.